Hey you, and welcome back to another video. Now, film emulation and film looks are all the rage, and for good reason. There's just something about a well-done film look that really goes a long way. Now, if you're not into look development and using tools outside of Resolve in order to get an accurate film emulation look, then it's pretty hard to get an accurate result inside of Resolve itself. To be clear here, we're talking about film emulations and not just a film look. And there is a difference. Now, even I've done videos before on how to get aspects of a film look, but we weren't emulating any one particular stock, so can't really call it a film emulation. It's just getting a film look in general. Now, to that end, that's where this video comes in. So a little bit ago, Dehancer reached out to me to review their plugin and give my opinion as to what I think of it and show it to you guys as well. So that's exactly what we're gonna do today. So they did give me the product to try out and test, and so far in total, I've spent about 2 weeks with it, kind of working on the different effects, trying to dial them in and looking at different images with it as well. That being said, all of these opinions are my own and they don't get a say in what goes into the final video. So these will be my pure, unfiltered opinions after using this plugin for about 2 weeks now. All right, so that out of the way, what's Dehancer? So Dehancer Pro, which is the one that I'm gonna be showing you guys today, is an all-in-one film emulation OFX plugin. Essentially, it's a plugin for Resolve, the one that I'm gonna show you guys, but they also have Premiere Pro and Final Cut Pro as well. And this plugin includes several components, some of which they do also sell separately. Now, essentially, you can buy some of these individual effects as well. If we look at their website here, they do sell them separately. And then there's also the Dehancer Pro plugin, which includes all of them, including the film emulation stocks. The Dehancer Pro has everything included in it. So before we dive into this any further and I show you guys the plugin, please remember to like and subscribe on this video as well. That'll really help it go out and reach other people. And you'll also be helping the channel out a ton. Thank you so much to everyone that's already subscribed to the channel and watched my videos. All of you guys are really awesome. So like I mentioned, if you guys really like what you see in today's video, they do also have versions for Resolve, Premiere Pro, and Final Cut. And they've also been generous enough to give you guys a 10% discount on the Dehancer plugin as well if you decide to buy with the code Raoul10 at checkout. And that'll give you guys 10% off the Dehancer plugin. I'll also be getting a little something back as well when you guys use that code, and that'll go a long way to supporting this channel as well. I'll link everything down in the description as well, and you'll find the discount code down there too, as well as the link to their website if you're interested. Okay, so in Resolve, I have this clip pulled up, and what we can do is we can go ahead and drop the Dehancer effect on an open node here. If you don't know how to get to it, you can just search for it in your effects panel, which is up here on the top right of the color page. Right away, the best thing that kind of sets this apart in my mind is that Dehancer supports different color spaces and gammas. I've used other plugins that don't have that support and mainly just work on Rec 709 footage, and this is a much better option, so already we have a plus there. Natively, this plugin supports ACES CCT and Davinci Wide Gamut Intermediate with Dehancer Pro, so I'm a big fan of that as I always work in one of these two. So in Resolve, I can drop a node before and then add a color space transform. Here, I'll do the transform from Alexa to Davinci Wide, and then do another node after with a CST and out to Rec 709. It looks a little weird, but if I go into the plugin and specify that I'm in Davinci Wide Gamut, it normalizes again. Alternatively, if you wanted to do the conversion for you, you can always choose the camera here and pick your make and model as well. Now, if we look down the page here, all of these effects have an enable toggle so that you know if they're on or off. If I go through and make sure they're all off and turn the node on and off again, for example, you'll see that nothing happens. So even with everything off, you'll have these controls up here which do quick technical changes to your image. For example, you have your exposure slider, temp and tint, defringe mainly helps with chromatic aberrations. I'm going to leave these as is for now, but just keep in mind these aren't really intended for creative control. They're just technical fixes before we really get into it. The nice part about this plugin is that you can just flow from top to bottom, and most of the effects and everything that you need to do are kind of in order. So that's really nice, and it's kind of organized in a fashion where you can just go down and pick the effects that you want. The top part here is dedicated to more of the overall look, giving you the film stocks, the print stocks, and even this color head section where you can push colors, almost like the color bars in Resolve. As you come down, you'll get more into the effects like halation, gate, weave, and all that good stuff. Alright, so let's talk about the big one first, and that's film stocks. Now, as I mentioned at the top of this video, this is film emulation. So the people over at Dehancer have actually taken film stocks and printed them to make sure that these digital versions act like the real life media. They have a blog post up about that as well on their website where you can read about how they come up with these film emulations, and I think that's a really good read, especially if you're interested in the technical part of things. If I do this drop down here, there are just so many options to pick from, and these are the negative film stocks. So this would be the film stock that goes through the camera to capture the image. As you can see, you have a ton of options. The Kodak stocks are on here, which are very popular, and they're used on almost every movie that uses film these days. You also have some really cool photography stocks like Ektar 100 and Fujifilm film stocks as well. I'm just gonna choose Vision 3 200T right now because that's one of my favorites. Now you can also do push and pull here with each film stock. If you've ever worked with film, you know that it behaves differently at different exposures, so that's an option that you have here as well. The film developer section is pretty neat too because it allows you to gently control things like the overall saturation with color boost and dial things in like contrast. The next couple of sections here are a bit more complex, so I won't go into a ton of detail, but just know there are a ton of tools here to affect how the film stock behaves with the image. The compression section can bring back highlights and affect compression of the image as well. The expand section can dial in the black and white points for your footage. That way the film stocks can work with the dynamic range in your image, which is really cool. And you can really tailor these to your particular footage and the actual real life practical environment that you had when you were filming. This print section is great again because you typically will print your film onto a print film stock or positive film. Since I chose Vision 3 200T earlier, I'll do a Kodak 2383 print, which is a really popular pairing. And I think that this just comes out to a really beautiful image here. It looks filmic, it has the colors, and I think it looks really great. I love the Kodak film look, and it's really cool to have the ability to get close to that digitally and try out the look on different footage that I can go out and shoot as well. Now, if we move on here, Dehancer also gives you the ability to use subtractive color tools here, and it's built right into the plugin. A lot of these effects also have impact sliders too, which essentially is like the opacity, so you can dial it back from full strength if it's giving you too much. So that was the film stock section. The rest of the Pro plugin also combines their great effects into one as well. So you can see here we have grain, halation, bloom, vignette, breathing, gate, and then some additional options here at the bottom as well. As with the film stock section, you have plenty of options and choice here. The cool part of the grain section is you can go with film negative grain or positive film grain. The negative will give you more pronounced grain and a higher contrast. I don't know if the YouTube algorithm will do a great job showing it, but this is the negative film grain. And then if I do the drop down and choose positive film grain, this is the positive one. Positive film grain is finer and softer as well. You can also use the shadows, midtones, and highlight sliders to affect grain response too, which is really cool. Now, these next set of effects really sell a film emulation, but halation is that red glow around specular highlights on film. Bloom is basically a glow around highlights, and then you have vignetting. Breathing is the slight oscillation in the exposure of film, and gate is how the film moves around ever so slightly, producing a little tiny shift from frame to frame. None of these effects are very noticeable, as even modern film cameras have gotten a lot better in controlling the film, but they are still there, and these little things bring it all together to make it feel like a film look, at least for me anyway. So you can have a ton of controls here for each effect, just like in Resolve. A lot of these come with Resolve as well, but you just have to add them individually, whereas with the plugin, they're included in one, and you can just enable and disable them as you need. So I went ahead and enabled them here and just messed with the parameters a little bit to get it where I want it. Even with just minimal tweaking, I think I got a pretty good result out of it. The only effect that might need some more finessing is halation, only because dialing that in to affect the parts of your image that you want can be hard sometimes. I'll show you the effects that I mentioned above here without Dehancer, so this version is just from Resolve plugins. It's pretty cool, and you have the option to do it with both. The last cool thing here is this section at the bottom that has a few additional things as well. For one, if you like what you came up with, you can export a LUT to use, and you can also disable the input transform depending on what options you choose at the top. You also have a total impact slider here, so think of this as opacity for the entire plugin. Once you have your look dialed in, you can come here and dial it back if you need to, and then you have this monitor section here. This makes it easy to check exposure by enabling disabling false color on your image. It also has this chart here on the side too, showing you all 16 zones. It's just a very convenient, fast way to approximate your exposure on each shot. So that's the entire plugin. There's a lot of options and a lot of effects here that you can choose from. I think it's a really great all-in-one plugin. Definitely way more than I can cover in one video, especially the particulars of each effect and each tweak that you can make to it. One thing I'll say is that it's a really well thought out plugin with all of the effects and everything in one place. So it makes it really convenient to just check off the things that you need, mess with the options all in one. And then it's really cool that they went the extra mile of really making these effects feel like their real life counterpart. Now, if you guys decide to pick up this plugin, there's a quick start guide on their website and it goes into a lot of detail on each individual setting and how it all works. So if you guys get this plugin, I highly recommend reading that and kind of taking their tips and using it as you use this plugin as well. They also have a great blog section on their website that I mentioned before that goes into detail on how they created different parts of the plugin. But I guess more than that is, how do I use this plugin? Well, I think all the effects are really great and definitely something I'll take advantage of. But the coolest part for me is going to be experimenting with all the different film stocks and seeing all the different results that I can get out of it. I just love playing around with all the different film negatives and pairing that up with print film as well, and just seeing all the cool, neat combinations of stuff that I can get, and also looking at how each film stock affects my colors and my image in a different way. As much as I really love the technical side and finding out how all these tools work and how they affect the image, I also just really love the creative capabilities that these plugins give to my workflow, especially in the experimenting part, and just coming up with different, unique, and fun looks. This is also a very easy way that, like, you don't have to dive into look development, you don't have to dive into all these different tools. You have one plugin that you can apply looks for and get a consistent look across multiple different projects or images that you're working on. I just think it's a really fun, convenient plugin, and I think they did a really great job with it. And for me, that creative part, that allowing the freedom to come up with these unique looks and try out different film stocks that I'll probably never film on myself, I think that's the coolest part, that creative element and just allowing you to come up with these unique looks. So that's where I'm going to leave it for this video. This is a really great, unique plugin. I really love it, and thanks to Dehancer for giving me this opportunity to review it. I think it's a really great plugin. So more so, I just love the creative potential that I have with this plugin now, allowing me to come up with different looks, but also inspiring unique looks of my own as well. And remember, if you guys decide to pick up this plugin, you have my promo code Raoul10 at checkout, which will give you guys 10% off discount. Until next time though, go out there and create something. La de vedere.